And after talking with us, he realized Scott had done his homework, because Leroy did laugh he kind of chuckled a little bit like, well, people like you, everyone wants to get into the wine business and grow grapes, but they have no idea what it entails. And we talked with him, and Scott talked with him, and Leroy came to realize that Scott was serious and had done his homework. When we asked Leroy if he would help us in our endeavor wherever we might find ground, he said he'd be proud to. He was really happy to see, he said, young people want to set off on a dream, and he was really the first person, and probably one of the most influential only people who believed in us. I'm getting a little weepy because there is a little bit of a sad ending to the story. Leroy had some health issues, and well, his phone's been cut off, so we're not even sure if he's alive anymore. And after meeting Leroy, and we went back to Ireland and realized Roseburg wasn't for us. We wrote some letters to people like, Dear Marv, dear Gail, we know this is in your pioneer family homesteaded land, but would you be interested in selling it? And very polite replies, or Scott spoke with them on the phone, and we decided we should then, look away from Roseburg, because like I said, we weren't going to find what we wanted. Our search then turned to the Dalles. I'm not sure exactly how we got out that far. I don't know if Scott just been doing some reading and started to match up temperature data. He always knew. I love the gorge. He knew I wanted to be in the gorge, probably more than relocating to Roseburg. So we started looking out in the Dalles. And this was from Ireland, and thank goodness for Google Earth, because it let us look at all kinds of the terrain, the topography. And once we identified, areas, and we saw there were weather data available from all the cherry orchards out there, all of that's available online. We just started, Scott started plotting that in, and finding where it would be, frost-free days, slope and elevation and aspect. And once we identified some properties, probably, I don't know how many were identified, Scott then went to the county, Wasco County, to get property owners. And with all that information in hand, we found a realtor. Well, that realtor, when we first approached that realtor, he was probably one of the biggest naysayers we've ever met. And maybe, for his own agenda, I don't know. But one of the first things he said was, crazy, you're crazy. You're never gonna find water. You'll never get the permit. Then you'll never find anyone who's going to sell you land, because it's been owned, again, for generations, just like down in Roseburg. And then if you do find land, well, you're going to be out in the middle of wheat country, and, the risk of chemical drift from what they spray their crops with could, take out a vineyard in one day if it's windy enough. We were a little upset from a distance. We went through a couple of rounds like, should we can this guy? What should we do? Should we can him? And Scott's very, easygoing, and but he's getting the fever, the wine fever. He wants to get going, but he's like, we've already gone down the road with him. Let's just see what happens. Well, so this guy, we did send him off to go knocking on doors after he did try to sell us, try to push land that he had on, listed. So we sent him off, and he did, to his credit, go and knock on doors, and everyone, of course, said no, 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 until someone said yes. Well, at that point, the tipping point was already starting to happen. Things were lining up. We felt someone was going to sell land, and so now the only thing to do was to go and see it. Scott had some conversations with the landowner while we were still in Ireland, and something about those conversations, that's, female intuition, I don't know, I didn't like it in that landowner from the start. And, well, yeah, in the end, there are good reasons not to, and which I'll get into. But pretty much the day after we returned from Ireland, we rented a car and we drove out to the Dalles to meet with the realtor and the landowner and see the property. And boy, weren't we in love with it. immediately right away it just started going boom, boom, boom. You know, we were setting up land deal. You know, well, we would buy the land if there was water. Well, was there water? Well, we had, the landowner had a dowser, a guy come out and, you know, hold a rod and find the land, find the well that way. And so the deal was that we would pay for that well to be built, and or pay for the drilling. And if there was water, then we would purchase the land. The deal that we had set up with the farmer was something that our banker said that a father would set up with his son, and it was a really good deal. And that we'd go into business with him, and so we did it. Much to my chagrin. I mean, it was happening so quickly, like boom, 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 boom. You know, like dig the well, find water, buy the land, and then suddenly we were developing it. The deer fence needed to go in. We had to bring in 3-phase electricity for the pump to run the well. Then we had to lay the vineyard out. We had to set the end posts. We had to set center posts. And of course, you know, we had to order all the plants. And, you know, you have to order plants months in advance so they can get them all ready. For Oregon to bring in any plants, it needs to be in soilless media, so they can't have touched any soil. So the only place that we could find was a spot down in California with the varietals that we were going to plant. So, you know, we had to everything had to work like clockwork to line it all up so you have months in advance so that you could plant the following spring and have enough time for the plants to establish themselves and get a good growing year in. So it just went really quickly. And during all this time, I was a wreck. I think Scott and I were pretty much falling apart because I was so upset with the landowner that we had purchased land from. You know, I have my reasons, but I just didn't like the guy. And I felt like I was gonna lose myself in this whole endeavor. I wasn't being listened to. The project was marching on, and it was like, deal with it, LaMonica. And it was a really, really tough time. It was a really, really tough time. On top of all that, then we also had to bring the neighboring wheat farmers together, kind of like a come to Jesus meeting where they found out about us. And they had heard rumors that, you know, this one, their neighbor farmer was selling some land, and oh my God, great gasp, I'm sure, went through the community. And they were very unhappy to hear that we were grape people because, well, you know, the stigma of grape people, you know, highfalutin, lots of money. They live in Portland, and they're probably just going to send people to work for them, and they probably have lawyers. And the really, really big thing was the issue of chemical spray that they use on their wheat ground.